I guess over the years you become a bit philosophical about life, and I've always thought that there are sayings which apply very appropriately to sport. You have to seize the opportunity of a lifetime in the lifetime of the opportunity, and I think that applies very much to the Olympic Games. Well, I come from a pretty unlikely background. I come from a small mining community called Nantamoyle. The school was on a hill, so we had no running track. One day, every year, we went down to the rugby pitch, and there was a very basic long jump pitch down there. I did quite well, and based on my winning distance, about 21 feet when I was 17, I was entered into the school's athletics championships in Cardiff. A guy called Ron Pickering had travelled from London, and he'd just been appointed as the national athletics coach for Wales. And he came up to me and he said, "Lynn, I've seen you do this. I think you can be one of this country's best ever athletes." I was taken totally by surprise. I was 18 and suddenly somebody was saying I could be a great athlete. It was only when I came to Cardiff College I began to think about the Olympic Games, but I had no idea what it took to get there. At the end of my first year, I went up to London in the national championships, and I actually jumped 26 feet for the first time. That gave me a lot of confidence. I received a letter from Buckingham Palace. I remember opening it and seeing the words, "Dear Lynn, you've been selected to represent Great Britain in the Olympic Games in Tokyo." I felt so excited. I couldn't believe it that at last I had been chosen to represent my country in the Olympic Games. The great thing initially in the Olympic Games is to take part in the opening ceremony. We lined up with our smart blue blazers on. On the left-hand side was the long jump pit, and I glanced across at it and I thought, well, in a few days' time I'm going to be competing there. I knew I was in with a chance of maybe making the final. That was my aim when I went to the Tokyo Olympics. And maybe at the very outside, if I was lucky, and lucky enough, was to get a bronze medal. On the day itself of the final, the Welsh gods must have been in Tokyo and looking over the stadium, because it was the worst possible climatic conditions you could ever have for an Olympic long jump competition. We had 4-meter headwinds driving into us, driving rain, a cinder track with the pools of water covered everywhere. And we knew that the winning distance was going to be down on what we anticipated. I was up against the two best in the world. Ralph Boston from America had won the Olympic gold in Rome 4 years earlier. Igor Terovanesyan from Russia had got the bronze 4 years earlier. As the competition went on, the weather conditions got worse. The jumping distances got worse, and the leading distance at the end of 4 rounds was way, way down. The important thing in the Olympic Games is not just the body, but the mind. I've always felt that the mind plays a key role in international competition. Suddenly, these guys, I was able to beat them. And that realization made the difference in my mind. And I stood on the runway in the 5th round, and the wind was still gusting, the flags were still blowing. And I stood there for the best part of 30 seconds and waited for the wind to drop. And by some miracle, it did. The flags dropped. And I charged on the runway, hit the board spot on, knew it was a good jump, it felt good in the air, landed well, and I sort of stepped out of the pit and waited them to measure the distance. And the Japanese judges measured the distance. The big scoreboard swung around, and I turned my head, and it said 8 meters and 7 centimeters. Now, I'd gone into the lead in the Olympic final against my heroes, but they had 1 jump left, the 6th round. I could hardly bear to watch. The first to go was Igor Terovanesyan. His last jump, he jumped. There was a great roar from the crowd on the left-hand side. the scoreboard swung around 8 meters. So I'd beaten him by 7 centimeters, which is about 2 inches. The last to go was Ralph Boston, the world record holder, and I knew that if he hit the board spot on and jumped, he would beat me. Anyway, he ran down, jumped, again a roar from the crowd, and I thought Ralph has got his title, defended his title again. So the scoreboard swung around, I looked around, dare not to look, and up the scoreboard 8 meters and 3 centimeters. So I'd won the Olympic title by 1 inch, 4 centimeters. And the feeling was unbelievable, that I just couldn't believe that I'd beaten the 2 greatest long jumpers in the world and become the Olympic champion. I'm very proud to be in the British team, but very, very proud also to be a Welshman in that British team, because there weren't very many of us. Wales has a very proud sporting heritage, a very proud sporting legacy. And then I'll never forget travelling home, exhausted arriving, came to Paddington Station, the main railway station in London. There was a big sign outside, "Well done, Lynn, congratulations." And I was looking up at this thinking, that's me. And then the train from Paddington down to Cardiff. And then outside Cardiff railway station, there were something like 2,000 people outside the station. And they all clapped and cheered as a welcome home. Having won Olympic gold, you then set a standard for yourself. I never forget Ron Pickering and I were travelling along in the car to a training session, and he said, "Lynn, you're Olympic champion. Next year you've got the Commonwealth Games and the European Championships, and if you can win those, you can be the greatest athlete that this country has ever known." There were new frontiers to conquer. We've had great athletes before from Great Britain, but none of them have ever become Olympic, European and Commonwealth champion. But I managed to do it. I went to the Tokyo Olympics as a relatively known international athlete, but to come back to this country as an Olympic champion, as a national hero, you're looked upon as a sort of a role model. Oh yes.
Yeah, it is.
Oh yes. Yeah, here we are. There's one chap here, I noticed. I seem to remember him from somewhere. These are legendary figures now. We talked about legends and what's it like to be a sporting hero. That's what these people are. We've been chatting about what these mean to people, these achievements.
Oh, I show mine all the time.
Are you on the end?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, well done.
I think it's really important. I think there's a huge legacy, and I think that hallways like this just, you know, display it, and we should be really proud of it.
I went to the Tokyo Olympics and won the long jump.
Oh, it's nice because you see these things and then you never actually see the face or anything.
No, that's right, yeah. There's a great tradition here and a great legacy, and you're part of it now.
Wow.
That's my Olympic gold. Yeah. Tokyo, 1964. Congratulations.
Oh wow.
You've inspired me. Inspired me now. Yeah, lovely to meet you. I'm a great believer in the value of sport, because what else can we hand on to the next generation which has so much value that sport can offer? So it gives young people hope, the thought that if they can do it, I can do it. And for me, that's the main value for sport, to inspire the next generation to believe that they too can achieve.